Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Real Life Real Estate Show. My name is Hector Hernandez. I am a real estate fund manager and wealth building coach, as well as real estate coach here on reallifetrading.com. With me, as always, is Mr. Luis Alejandro Lopez, my buddy, my pal, my friend, and business partner. And of course, the co-host of this great show. What you got, Luis?
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday, April 14th. Man, it's almost whole year by now. My name is Luis Alejandro Lopez. I'm a real estate coach here at Real Life Trading, and we have an amazing show for you guys today. This past week, I got pretty much three people hooked up into looking at foreclosures, and they're hooked up bad. So we're going to be talking to one of them today. But meanwhile, let's talk about a few things that we need to get out of the way. First, disclaimer. All right. As always, we always talk about it. We always say it. We're going to be talking about what we know, what we've done, what worked for us. Remember, there's always a liability. There's always an issue when you're investing. Same thing when we're looking at the charts and you click the buttons and you're the one to make the trade. It's similar. You're going to be the one raising your hand and saying, I want to buy that house. So, because again, we talk about auctions today. So please just, make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure you do your research. If you have any questions, do not buy anything crazy sight unseen without any idea. Just ask people, ask us. We are here. We can look into whatever you guys need. And if we don't have the answers, we'll find the answers for you. Okay.
There's always Google, right?
That's right. It's always Google. There's always everything. All right.
Beautiful.
This presentation is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Mostly education. We don't care about entertaining. We want you guys to go out and do it. To go out, do the thing. Just start. We're going to see that today, the person we're interviewing, he was all kind of careful. He wasn't sure he was good for him. As soon as he saw the first house and he went to the auction, he went nuts. So you'll see.
Hey, hold on. I missed the name of the show today, bro. What was today's show?
Oh, wait. Foreclosure auctions going wild. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I don't know about you, but
as long as they don't bring the margarita machines, we'll be fine.
No margaritas today. It's just pure tequila, bro.
That's okay. All right. So we finished with our disclaimer. What else? You were talking about the markets. That we do to the markets. You flooded.
Dude, the market's flooded, bro. Broward County, literally flooded. And I'm not talking about real estate inventory. I am simply talking about the massive amount of rain that we've gotten this week. It pretty much has not stopped raining. Well, today it stopped raining, but it hadn't stopped raining since Easter Sunday. It just broke out in rain in the afternoon on Sunday, and we got about an hour of sunshine each day ever since, and the rest has just been rain. This is a shot from yesterday at Fort Lauderdale Airport. I am indeed supposed to be at a growth event today, at a multifamily event today, which was postponed to tomorrow because of the simple fact that the main host, pretty much all the big people are putting it together, weren't able to make it because Fort Lauderdale looked like this yesterday, and they canceled, I think, pretty much every flight, which was kind of cool because it gave me a chance to hang out with Mr. Craig Levine and Brandon Blevins, who was supposed to fly out of this airport but couldn't. So lucky me, I got to hang out with the boys. That was a ton of fun. And Lucian says, in Tampa, they can't get any rain. Bro, I will
all the rain stayed
half
there.
of what I got here. Please, take it all. Take half of it.
It was like, I don't know, like 3-4 feet of rain, like in 24 hours, something like that. Like you guys got there like 6 months of rain in a day or in 2 days.
Look at this car. Yeah. He is not doing good right now today.
Yeah.
Even the SUV, man. I mean, and I've had a Durango. These are pretty tall vehicles. This guy did not stand a chance. He was just, he must have swam out of there.
So I guess we need to talk about Copart in the next show. Just be careful buying a car. Okay. So what you got?
All right. So before we dig into today's greatness with today's amazing guest, which, by the way, I love that he's breaking in. We had this person. It's a secret, by the way. We had this person on the show several months ago. I've had the pleasure of doing one-on-one coaching with him, and it's ever since I feel like he's just fallen in love with real estate, and I'm very excited to see that. That always makes me happy when people see what I see in real estate and the amazing advantages that you gain from investing in real estate. But before we get there, let's talk about some upcoming events. We're going to try to go in calendar order, but please don't hold me to that. I think we got the slides correct. This Saturday is the first one that I got on the table. Yours truly here will be hosting a networking event with my buddy Henry, and a special guest, Mr. Jeff Lindahl, is coming through. This event is going to be at in Fort Lauderdale at the Wharf. I've been told I pronounced that funny, but nevertheless, it is a great venue, and luckily the weather is getting better just in time. I've gotten feedback from the venue that there's no more flooding in downtown Fort Lauderdale. They are open, and we will be out there tomorrow having some fun networking with a great group of multifamily investors, passive investors alike. And so if you are in the Miami or Fort Lauderdale area, or you're in West Palm Beach, or you just want to fly on down, you need an excuse to get away for the weekend, this is your perfect excuse. Come hang out with me and a bunch of cool people Saturday, 6 p.m. to 8:30. Nah, I'll probably be there a little bit later, but got to give it an end date, right? Got to give it an end time. And so if you have any questions, please text me, team. If not, hit me up on Slack if anybody's coming, if you're unsure how to get there. But this is the address, and it is beautiful downtown Fort Lauderdale.
All right. So next one.
Ooh, that one's going to be fun. So Johnny has so graciously invited Lewis and myself to the RLT military channel party. He calls it a get together, but I think it sounds more like a party the way that he described it. So I will be turning on my margarita machine for that one, Lou. What about you?
All right, cool. Oh, for sure. I got it at home. Are you kidding me? You could do anything. You just stretch the arm.
So if you are part of RLT, if you are on Slack, if you are a military veteran, active or retired, please join us. You should have seen him post this on Slack. If not, hit Lewis or myself up, or Johnny on Slack, and we will send you the Zoom link. It will be next Thursday, April 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I probably should have wrote that on the slide, but okay. It is on Eastern Standard Time. And that's a lot of fun. And what an honor it is to have been invited to one of Johnny's parties. I can't wait to see what that looks like.
And the reason for that is my boy is preparing a full real estate mentorship for heroes. Okay. So my boy is doing 8 weeks. It's going to be at noon, 12:30 to 1:30 on Thursdays, correct?
That is correct.
Starting April 27, 2 weeks from now. So please, please, please join them. The same mentorship that, we charge, that we discuss, that we show everybody how to flip homes, how to make money doing this, is going to be for free. Okay. So you have that word free. There you go. Free for veterans, if you're a vet, if you're active military, if you're retired, you got it. This is for you. My boy is doing it. 8 spots were original. I think 1 is already spoken for, 2 is spoken for. So 6 more spots. We are doing the thing with Johnny. So we're here to help the veterans as much as we can. So please, 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 please do it. Okay.
I am looking forward to that, man. That's very exciting. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to share my skills, my gift with the men and women that keep us safe and that have allowed me and you, Lewis, to build our wealth through real estate through all these years. And basically because they make this the greatest country on earth. And it is just my little tiny little way of giving back and sharing what I know, and hopefully that will be beneficial. I did just drop the link in the chat if anybody wants to go ahead and start registering for that. Like Lewis said, the spots are going kind of quick, and I'm excited for that. I can't wait for that. Any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, just go ahead and jump on in and see you guys in there. It's going to be fun.
All right. So now let's go to the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. Talk to me. You wanted to talk about CPI. CPI just dropped this week. So what was that doing to the market?
So, I mean, it was good news for a little bit, and then it was bad news. It's kind of hard to say from the stock market perspective. You know, first we had a great, big old, beautiful bullish day yesterday, totally took out the big old bearish day from the day before. And then all of a sudden today we are sinking again. Not 100% sure what is causing the trouble today, but one cool thing is that as we could see here, the trend, we all look at charts, team, right? We are all chart lovers, and the trend is your friend, and the trend right now is heading down. This is the first time in a pretty long time that CPI actually comes in below the 6% mark on a year-over-year basis, right? And obviously this does not include food, because we all know that eggs have not come down in price, and neither has milk. I am still spending pretty much half.
Way too much money in food. Yeah.
Wow, man, I just bought some milk for the kids. And, you know, my kids, I have two kids and they're babies, and they drink a ton of milk. And yeah, my milk bill, through the roof. Let's not even talk about the egg bill.
Now that they tell you they can pay in 6 parts, you know, with Amazon is doing everything that you're gonna buy, you can buy in 6 parts and no interest and nothing. So yeah, finally prices starting to come down.
Can I finance eggs? Are you serious?
I'm sure you can. And you'll be paying it way after they go bad. You know, same thing with cars.
Do not tempt me, bro, because I will put them on layaway.
So yeah, prices starting to come down a little bit, and that means just a little bit. At least that's what the Fed wants. That's what the Fed is looking for. So we'll see how the next meet, that it's going to be end of May, if I'm not mistaken, what's going to happen with the interest rate. Last we spoke about, they raised the interest rate 3 weeks ago, another 1/4 point. Mortgages took a little bit of a jump, and we discussed it in the last show where nobody really applied for mortgages. They came down again to 637 last I saw, and they're kind of hanging there. Okay, so again, mortgages not going up too much more. Mortgages are not going to be going down in a long while. And I would say long while, at least a year and a half, until the Fed decides that we're over this. But if we keep seeing the prices the way they are, the Fed is going to keep tightening the belt. We know that it's coming.
Yeah, we definitely did see, and I think that may have been what sparked today's sell-off, because there was some news that dropped this morning about consumer sentiment, consumer spending, which slowed down in March a lot heavier than was expected. So they were expecting about a half a point drop, and it actually dropped a full percentage point, which is good, right? We're seeing the bank trouble that's happening. We're seeing inflation kind of come down. So I think all of that should lead to the Fed hopefully kind of leveling off. I don't see them dropping rates like Louis just said. But we at least have one Fed that I was listening to, the Chicago Fed president, talking about just slowing down and kind of just sitting tight and waiting to see what happens. There's obviously opposing federal representatives that are saying, hey, let's keep going, let's do at least another 1/4 point. But they are starting to at least talk about holding tight and not continuing to increase.
We'll see how that goes. But for now, just make sure that you learn the numbers every time that you do your real estate calculations. Again, make sure that you do them in your cash flowing positive, and you're making your good numbers right now. If you want something that you're going to buy and keep and rent out or whatever, I mean, things are just going to get better eventually. Okay, at this point,
Lucian, post your setup. Sorry, bro. Lucian just said that there's a beautiful 10 EMA setup that he missed, but
all right, post it up and I'll open it.
Post it. Let's look at it, man.
I don't have my broker open, but hey.
Yeah. Dude, been barely trading this week. I've been working on yeah.
Broke a hammer. Decision candle broke the hammer.
No, that's a SPY. Is that the one you meant to send, Lucian? Because this is SPY.
No, run chart.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me see, because I'm here. I got it here. Let's see if I see it. Oh, right there. Beautiful. Entry here, stop there.
That is kind of
yes, it's correct. That is correct. Oh no, look where he's putting his entry to stop. I would have been way wide.
Ooh, that's a tight setup, man. I like it. Lucian is such a pro, man.
Yes. That's why he's a boss.
Yeah, you're right. I would have had to stop way down
Yeah, I would
here.
have got my
Probably
stuff
never
down
hit
here
target.
before this one. Just nice and secure and all cozy. And of
You know,
course, I complain I make
us real
43
estate
yards.
guys, us real estate guys with the safety trades. You know what I mean? Let's take the risk out of the situation. Oh man, that is a beautiful trade, man.
All right.
That
So
is indeed a beautiful trade.
where were
Where
we?
did your slide go? Okay.
Okay.
So back to CPI, and so yeah, the Fed is definitely talking about potentially slowing down. We do see some tightening going on from the banking industry, and team, I'm not an expert, but banks stopped lending, or they haven't stopped lending, I should say. They've slowed down, they've tightened their lending a little bit, they've increased their criterias and tightened up those criterias for lending, which in itself is helpful to bring down inflation because there's less credit out there for people to spend. There's less money out in the market. So that should really help out with the Fed's case of starting to slow down those increases and potentially even hopefully coming on down, which, as we all know, will be good for real estate again, right? We are
another quick thing.
basically
I
prepping for
spoke
that.
with a broker yesterday, a mortgage broker. He does unconventional loans for people like you and me.
Okay.
He was quoting me in a hard money loan for a house I went to see over here in Dallas. It's kind of on the west side of Atlanta. He said in the last 6 months, pretty much half of the ones that he was working with are closed. So the ones that are alive, it's, they're very busy and they're jacking up the rates for hard monies. So a lot of competition shut down, not a lot of people willing to loan money. They told me a lot of them are just sitting with their hands, arms crossed, just waiting to see what happens. Because since the prices went so crazy, they want to make sure that they're loaning money on stuff that, there's plenty of spread. So if there's not plenty of spread, they don't want to get caught with a hot potato like happened in 2009, 2010.
Yeah. Pencils down is what I've heard in the last month or two from a lot of private equity firms. The pencils down basically means they're kind of sitting tight and waiting to see what is what's going to shake out. I have started to see some trouble in the multifamily and commercial lending. I just saw news about a couple of foreclosures from Arbor Lending, which is a fairly large commercial lender. And they're starting to foreclose on, large apartment communities that are not meeting their obligations. I don't have a ton of data on that right now, but I will prep something for the next meeting, the next time we meet, so that we can kind of talk about that. Because I think we do see some of that coming down the pipeline. And it's going to be up to some of us to kind of be prepared for that. Man, look at that beautiful head and shoulders, man. Do you see that head and shoulders? Because I mean, do I just see chart patterns these days? Wow, Jeremy's rubbing off on me.
Lucy is asking about HELOCs. Are HELOCs getting tighter as well? I can imagine. I haven't asked for a HELOC in a while.
Yes,
I can imagine.
As a matter of fact, a little bit. They have definitely gotten a little bit tighter in terms of criteria, but that's just lending in general, Lucian. Same scenario with first mortgages, right? Banks were already relatively tight even prior to this. But because the interest rates were so much lower, it was easier for people to afford more buying power, to have more buying power. Now with the higher interest rates, the buying power is coming down significantly. And so while, let's say, someone may have been able to afford $100,000 HELOC on their home because they had plenty of equity and they had good income above their current mortgage at a 4% or a 3% rate. Well, now at a 6 and change, and I think HELOCs are even a little bit higher. I think they came down some, but I know someone who was applying about 2 months ago for a HELOC, and they were being quoted somewhere in the 8s, which is significantly higher. Yeah. So, that's going to affect the size of the HELOC. So banks are not only looking at your equity when they're doing a HELOC, they're also looking to make sure your debt to income ratio, that DTI, is in par with what they need. And so that DTI right now, that debt to income ratio, is a hard number. They are not at all flexible on it. And so that's going to affect the way that you can borrow and the way that you can do those HELOCs. They are asking for all sorts of documentation, dotting their I's and crossing their T's. I have personal family and friends that have been going through an application. He's like, man, I don't understand how much paperwork these people want for all sorts of
Just make sure you get all your shots.
Yeah, exactly. You got to give a sample of your DNA, a little piece of hair of your firstborn, and all kind of stuff. It's and it's typical. This particular person, he's going through Bank of America. I have a HELOC through Bank of America, and that was from years ago. And I remember what a pain it was. It was just, they did not slip on one little tiny piece of paper. They want everything brand new. And so it gets a little more difficult when you have several LLCs like he has, and they want documentation for every single LLC and letters of explanations, P&Ls and everything, even for pass-through companies, right? So in real estate, we very commonly use LLCs and businesses just as pass-through. So we might not have every piece of financial information that a normal standard operating business would have, because there's no need to track it. We're simply just, putting property in there, collecting rent, and filing taxes. Or sometimes it's just a pass-through entity. It really depends, right, on your state and on your setup. But lenders, they don't care. They want some sort of an explanation as to this LLC that is showing on your personal taxes, and they want to know why, how, when, where, how much money is it making or not.
We got two questions.
Go for it.
All right. First, Deepak is asking, what will be the best loan options for a newbie trying to flip a property? Hard money options are getting seems too expensive. Your best option right now, to be absolutely honest, it's private money. And by private money, I will think will be calling your friends and family, your grandma, your uncles, your aunts, your neighbors, your whoever you can get that has some money idling, that is sitting on a bank account doing nothing, and offer them to pay him a reasonable amount. And by reasonable amount, maybe offer them 10%, 9%, 8.5%, more than they will originally will get at a bank or with some funds or some whatever, with a regular investment, let's put it that way. Make it attractive for them and make it attractive for you. That way, when it's private money, you don't have to be jumping through hoops, paying points, doing all those things that hard money lenders do. I just got a quote yesterday at 11.28 for hard money loan. Yeah. Of course, they say it's the first time using the guy, so it depends on how or why. Once we know each other and we've been knowing each other, rates will come down, yada 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 yada. But that's the first quote I got. So I'd rather pay friends and family 10%, and just draw a document where if it's only one person, it's basically just a straight up mortgage. You pay for the mortgage closing, for those documents. A title company, a closing attorney, a real estate attorney can do that for you easily. And that's probably the easiest and best way if you have a deal that makes sense. Again, make sure, if you're a newbie, make sure run the numbers 3 or 4 times, make sure that the numbers make sense. And if you have questions, we're here on the other side of Slack. Just send the deal and we'll have a look at it.
Okay? Yeah. And, to that point, if any of you are on the other side of that, and instead you want to make passive loans and get involved, call Lewis, call myself, call someone in RLT. There's plenty of people here looking to buy real estate, and we can all, as real estate investors, always use a real estate lender who wants to make passive loans. But I want to kind of circle back to what Lewis said. It can be easier sometimes to involve your friends and family, but when you are beginning, you also want to make sure that you don't lose your friends and family's money. It's one thing to lose the hard money's business money. You get into trouble, you mess up, it's going to affect your credit, this, that, and the other, but it will not affect Thanksgiving conversations. So double check your numbers, triple check your numbers. If you are doing business with family, make sure you do that business correctly. get a coaching call with Lewis or myself. Let's make sure that we review those numbers. And it's, we're not going to guarantee it for you by any means, but we'll at least double check your numbers and we'll kind of help you, guide you in the right direction, tell you, hey, this is a deal I would do, this is a deal I wouldn't do. And just give us our own personal opinion with, a couple hundred flips under our belts and, a few hundred transactions, whether rentals or flips. We've seen a thing or two go wrong. And that's what's most important, right? Typically, just as you all know, just like with trading is, why do I not want to make this investment? Like, I'm looking for every single reason not to make the deal. And when I run out of reasons, I buy the property. If I come up with one or two reasons, I don't buy them.
And the other thing that we always say, do not fall in love with a house.
Yes.
Fall in love with a number. If the number don't make sense, there's always another one coming around. So you might see it tomorrow, you might see it in a month, you might say that's why we love the auctions, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, because there's always a pipeline of properties coming in. Do not fall in love with a house. I don't care if it's you, whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna go through that rabbit hole. Make sure that the numbers make sense. If the numbers don't make sense, just walk away.
It's always about the numbers, and it's not uncommon for most investors, and really, I know I do this all the time, and so does Lewis. Is we might look at what the property looks like, but then we only for estimating purposes for what we're going to need to rehab, and then we immediately go to our spreadsheet, punch numbers in before we leave our house to go look at the property and look at it, so that it helps to not fall in love. We've bought plenty of property sight unseen because it's always about the numbers. I can mitigate just about any problem on a property so long as I buy it at the correct number.
Correct. Every problem that you're gonna get yourself into, it's fixable. It just costs money. So make sure that your numbers are correct. Because if you find yourself in more trouble, you need to spend more money. That money's coming out of your profit. If you find more problems than what it's worth, then you're going to be paying money, out of your pocket to fix the problems, and you cannot be able to sell the house for a profit or rent it or whatever. The number will not make sense. So just be careful in that sense. Okay.
Yep. And Deepak, one other option.
It's not like a trade that you click the button and you're out of it. It's a bad trade. You lose an hour and you're done. Real estate, it moves really slow. So in order for you to sell, you probably have to fix everything before you can put a property in the market. Or if not, you have to, people like us will buy it and will give you pennies on the dollar. And, it's the same situation.
Deepak, I do want to mention a couple other options to financing your real estate deals when you're starting off. Flipping, HELOC, we just alluded to it. HELOCs. I've definitely have used HELOCs before, lots of times. They're available, they're easy. Lending has gotten a little bit tighter on it, like I said, but they're still out there, and it's a very easy way to tap into your own equity. There's also 401ks and IRAs. You can borrow against your retirement accounts, or you can actually set up what's called a self-directed IRA and transfer funds from your traditional retirement accounts to the self-directed IRA. And essentially what that self-directed IRA does is it becomes the buyer on this property, and it goes and it buys that investment property for you. There's some rules there. I'm not a CPA, so let's not go down that rabbit hole, but it is again a way for you to access funds that you might have in a retirement account, dip into those in order to use real estate. And one really, really, really cool thing, if you do it within a self-directed IRA, right? You might not personally be able to put those profit dollars in your pocket, but you could definitely grow that IRA tax-free. There is one drawback that some people don't love about flipping is the fact that it is considered short-term capital gains. So your taxes are slightly higher for the most part. But within the IRA, again, it's a retirement account. So you don't have those same tax implications as long as you do it right. So make sure you get asked those questions from the IRA provider and from your CPA, and you make sure you follow those rules. They're not super difficult, but there are some rules and some nuances there.
All right. So we have another question.
Yes, sir.
Kevin is asking a question. Do you want to have Kevin just ask it on the air? Hey, since he's here.
I think we absolutely can cover Kevin's question on the air. The last thing I had here on CPI was so everybody could see, what the differences are. And I think we talked about it, right? Food is definitely continuing to go up. The nice thing is energy dropped quite a bit. I think that has a lot to do with the winter months starting to come to an end. But I've definitely seen gas prices kind of trickle down a little bit here in Florida. I know you got sticker shock when you were here.
I got sticker shock last week. Yeah, it was stupidly insane. It was like $1 more expensive in Florida than in Georgia. But then again, we have a state income tax in here up here. So, but yeah, it was ridiculous. It was really bad.
Yeah, there's some higher fuel taxes here in Florida, so that that's what you saw, but it came down quite a bit. We've seen it even on the markets, and this is the one that that we were focused on, right? This is everything minus food and energy, and it did kind of come down a little bit from the last time. It's a little bit of a smaller bar. This doesn't show us 12 months. This doesn't show us the past, but I just kind of wanted to show the breakdown for everyone here. But we could definitely move on. Before we move on, though, can we just put Lucian's 2-hour trade back on the screen for a minute? I know you missed the Lucian, but dude, home run, man. I mean, way to read that chart, buddy.
Man.
Didn't even retest, man. It was just like
right there. Was this one here?
Yep.
I guess you are going to target right there.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Don't feel bad, bro. Don't feel bad. That was nice compression right there. 10 EMA, boom. Beautiful. And it keeps going up because as soon as he breaks this wick, he's gonna keep going.
That is money. Great job, Lucian. I get it. We all. I mean, I cry sometimes when I miss trades like that. You'll catch me under my desk just weeping. But you saw, like Jeremy says, at least you spotted it, right? I don't know. It sometimes makes me feel better when he says that, but most of the time I still cry under my desk.
All right. So, Kevin, where are you?
Well, did you upgrade the man? Oh,
yeah, the man is a panelist. Yes, sir.
Ooh.
Hey guys, I'm trying to start the video, so I'll get it sorted out in just a moment.
There you go.
You are live and in charge. I had to make
live. What's up, brother?
Good afternoon, Hector. Good afternoon, Lewis. Great to see you.
It's great to see you, man. I love this picture, man. You look handsome and professional. I love it, man.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
I'm envious that I missed this Tesla trade you guys were just looking at. That's a nice trade, but
that was amazing. I haven't looked at charts today at all, but yeah, that was like just waiting with the hook.
That's right.
That was perfect. That makes the week pretty much. So the reason Kevin is here, it's Kevin took a mentorship call with Hector a few months back. He was in the show a few months back. He was asking questions. Remember when was it? 4 shows ago that we were talking about the best markets where the property values are pretty much well related to rentals. One of the ones we mentioned was Birmingham, Alabama. And Kevin, it's about an hour away from there. So he's very knowledgeable about the area. So next thing he did is that he jumped on a call. He's like, Lewis, what can we do there? So I kind of told him, listen, we can look into stuff, but we were looking into auctions because that day we were looking into auction.com. And we started looking. He had a property that he wanted to see. He wanted me to see. We run the numbers. The property was going into auction. My man went to the auction and he's hooked. So the idea is for you guys to hear, not from me, not from Hector, that things can be done, that there's a spread, that there are properties out there, and that you also can do it. You don't have to have, a whole bunch of years of experience. You don't have to go to, hair club for men or anything like that. That you can do it as well. So, Kevin, talk to us.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on the show, guys, and I appreciate your help getting me started on the auction path. So, just picked up some information on auctions.com from you guys several months ago and started researching into that, and found a property that was nearby. It's about 15-20 minutes away. Looked like an opportunity. So, Lewis, you helped me get some numbers in order and some title searches, some things in place to help me feel comfortable, and and went to the auction. It was a lot of fun.
Do you remember the address? Let's post it up here.
Oh, that's a good question. I can find it real quick.
I might be able to find it. I might be able to find it.
Yeah, but it's actually an interesting property. It sits right on the city line from being in the Coleman, where I'm at, Coleman city limits and county. So, but it's in the county. So I think you had some great opportunities, but I got a little nervous during the auction, as you know, I guess happens when you start playing with larger and larger amounts of capital. And but someone got it, and it was a great opportunity, and I'm looking for the next one at this point.
That's awesome, man. So tell us a little bit, first of all, about your experience talking to myself, to Louis. How was that? What did you gain from those calls? There were obviously at separate occasions, and just share a little bit about that. What did you gain from that? Was that worth your time? Was it totally boring? Did you fall asleep?
It was not boring at all. It was very, very beneficial, especially for me as a relatively new investor in real estate. There's so many different horror stories that you hear, but you come to find out that there are really easy ways to mitigate most risks. Like Louis said, all of these problems that you come across in real estate can be resolved. Some of them are less expensive than others, but very beneficial to be able to reach out to both of you guys and have a discussion about how to go to an auction, what things to take with you, what to look for before you go to the auction, how to prepare, just pulling together the numbers of what could be your upper level of your bid and making sure you stick with those numbers. Very, very important for me as a relatively new investor. And even some of the things that I knew intuitively or have read about, it's very reassuring to hear that from someone over the phone who has, you know, years of experience like you two do.
Awesome. I love that, man. Thanks for sharing that. And obviously, you know, Kevin is not your run-of-the-mill individual. He is already a genius by trade. He is an engineer, so he's extremely smart. So he picked up on this thing like that, right? Someone like me, I probably would have needed like 15, and in fact, I did need like 15 coaching calls when I first started, right? It took a lot longer and a lot of beating my head against the wall for it to come in there, but it finally did. I finally got it, right? So it does not take a genius like Kevin to get it. It is absolutely doable. Some of us might get it a little faster than others, right, Louis?
That's right. And that's okay.
Some of us might lose more hair than others, right? It's just, but there is a place for everyone in real estate, and which is what I love about it.
And there's not,
so this is
not rocket
the
science.
Beautiful home that you went to go bid on, right? Yeah, I remember this one. You sent this to me, yeah.
Yeah, this is the home. So talk to us. You found this home. We look at the numbers, we look a little bit at the history, and then you went prepared on basically with information in hand, and you went to the courthouse. We found the property in auction.com, if I'm not mistaken, correct, as well. Let me see if I can pull it up from there.
Yeah, that's correct, Louis. It was auction.com. So when I saw it on auction.com and saw that the opening bid amount, it was a no-brainer to me. The property at 1,100 square feet, even in the area it's in, after repair value is going to be 130, 140 easily.
Okay.
So a bid at that level, an opening bid, it's a no-brainer. I had to go to the auction.
All right. So
it might not show up on auction.com anymore, Lou, if it already.
No, exactly.
What was the opening bid, Kevin? Do you remember?
The opening bid, it was either 30 or 31K.
Wow. Okay. Amazing.
Look, estimated value right here. So let's say that, you know, this realtor.com is telling you its value. Let's say it's 120. So we said that the bid started at 36, right? 30 something.
Low 30s, yes.
From there it started going up. So how was the procedure of the actual auction? Was it complex?
Yeah. So first, the day before, I went to my credit union and got various checks, cashier's checks, or various amounts. I think total I took 50K with me. So I had a check for like 20, a check for 10, 5, 15, various amounts. I was unsure of the method and the process as far as payment and funds validation. So I just went ahead and I took all the funds that I might need to cover the purchase price. And an update on that for this auction, the only thing that was required was a $5,000 deposit at the time of if you were the winning bid.
Oh, even
So
better.
I didn't
Nice.
need the entirety of the funds.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Talk more a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I got to the auction, the auctioneer, I got there early, and I since I hadn't been there before, I just kind of hung out to see how it was going to play out. Right. So I was looking for someone who looked official, an auctioneer, and the lady showed up, and she had on an auction.com shirt. They're very bright shirts. I'm sure that's for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of other individuals showed up. So went up and talked to the lady. She's very nice. She asked for my name, identification, and basically asked for verification of funds, the deposit. So showed her the checks that I had, and she was good with that, and I passed all those, checked all those boxes. She gave me a bidder card, bidder number, and once it was time for the auction to start, we were off to the races.
I love it. You posted a picture of that bidder card. So I've been to a few live auctions. Have you ever been to a live auction before, Kevin? For cars or anything else?
No, I haven't, other than maybe at a charity event where they're doing a live auction, but no car auctions, no, certainly no real estate auctions.
That's exhilarating though, right? When you first get that bidder card and you're like, oh boy, it's official. I better not raise my hand.
Know what?
You can't scratch your head, right? Like, oh no.
Yeah, it's really funny. For me, as an inexperienced person going to an auction, some of the other bidders, they had been through this many times, obviously. But when the bidding started, no one wanted to place the first bid. It was funny. We all stood around and everybody just looked at each other. And I'm like, guys, this is my first rodeo. And finally, someone placed the first bid, and then it just went from there.
Yeah, nobody wants to know, everybody else to know that they want the property. So they're playing, tough to get. And that's the part I love about live auctions. Lucian says, I say exciting, he says dangerous. And I'm like, well, it really depends. Yes, it can be dangerous if you don't stick to your numbers and you get trigger happy, because it's very easy to do this. That's very easy to do this. And it's very easy to get excited. I'm not gonna let this one go for $100. So he goes another $100. There goes
$5,000 later.
And then, and then from $100 to $100, next thing you know, you're in that thing deep on the tens of thousands. And at some point you need to know where to walk away. So make sure that your numbers are correct. There's always a little bit of wiggle room, but as soon as you hit your max, you need to walk out. You need to turn around and walk away, or you need to shut down the computer. Been there, done that. Remember, I got a lot of t-shirts. I got that one too. You need to know your limits in that sense.
I may have gotten in a bidding war or two in my time, especially at the car auction. I bought a few vehicles at car auctions before, and it could definitely be dangerous for sure, Lucian. It comes down to self-control. When I was in my early 20s, it was a little harder. When I would go to these car auctions, I get into those bidding wars all day, but I learned my lesson. When I got stuck with a few vehicles I could not sell because I paid too much for them. So luckily I didn't have to do that in real estate, because I learned that in cars. Hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars versus tens of thousands.
So Kevin, what are the information you needed in order to feel confident placing a bid on a house?
So some of the things I learned before going to the auction, 95% of your work is done up front in preparation. Understanding the history of the property, who's currently in the property, because that adds a whole nother layer of challenges. And there certainly would have been some of those challenges with this property if I had won it from a who is living there currently perspective. But mainly, understanding what liens are on the property. Is there a first position mortgage? Is there a second lien on the property? There was also on this property some Alabama state income tax liens on it. which, talking to my real estate attorney, they said that most of the time those liens are included, the payment of those liens are included as part of the foreclosure process.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure it's different from state to state, so be cautious there. But really understanding what liabilities the property has on it, what liens are on the property, and then trying to understand the history. That was what I learned, is that all of your work is done before you go to the auction. And like Hector said earlier, making sure the numbers work. And if you have your numbers laid out, and Lewis did a great job helping me understand potential rehab costs from drywall to HVAC, flooring, and just going through those numbers. Obviously, we don't have pictures of the inside of the house, but if you have someone that has a lot of history, they understand these numbers. And like Lewis does, it's going to be really close in reality. And then when you get to the auction, the next time it'll be mostly mechanical for me, because all of my work is going to be completed up front. I know how much money I can spend. I know what my top bid will be. And if it gets above that bid, you wad up your bidder card and you call it a day and wait for the next one. So it's a really interesting experience. I would say if you're interested in real estate, even if you don't plan to bid, just go watch one. I mean, the auctioneer was very, kind and open to discussing things. So it's quite an experience.
Nice. So it's similar at the end to trading. I mean, you have your setups, you have your trading plan, you got everything. So the next thing was your job as a trader. Set the trade.
Follow your plan.
So follow your plan. Where you follow your plan. So this house is this much. My rehab is this much. I expected this one to sell for this much. So as much as I can pay is X. So what's your plan? It's just keep bidding the house until you get to X. Now, when you're there, it's simple. I mean, you're going to get a little bit of shyness at the beginning, but then it's just normal. It took me, when I first did it, back in Florida in 2009, 2010, it was still in the courthouse steps. And it took me 2 full months going every day and then doing the research backwards. Okay, this and this and this and this were bought. Why? For this much. Then just go back. What, how much are they worth? How much did they pay? I try to drive by and see how much will they spend to spend on those. And once you're confident with your numbers, then okay, you open your mouth and then you raise your card and you buy something. And it's exhilarating. The first time that you do that, then you're shaking the moment that you're signing the paper. But after 1 or 2 or 3 of those, it becomes routine.
It's the world's ugliest signature, right? We're like,
yeah, X.
Like, come on, just sign the document. But Kevin, so you hit on some really, really key points, right? One thing you never want to do if you're going to bid is to just show up unprepared, right? The most important thing was that preparation that you did beforehand. You looked at the property with Lewis. Let's talk about some of the things, sort of like, hey, is it occupied? What sort of stuff did you do to identify whether this property was occupied or not? Because as you said, that adds a whole other layer of complication, and in every city and every state is a little bit different what the laws look like in order to remove this person, or what you could do or can't do. So talk us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a couple of different times I just drove by the property to see if there was anyone there, not to necessarily stop and talk to them or take pictures, but just to see if there was someone living there. Go by at night, see if the lights are on. If the lights are not on, that probably means there could be a lot more issues with the house itself. So that's what we did. My wife and I, we drove by a couple of times. There was a car there. Sometimes there wasn't a car. The lights were on, so that was positive. Did some research on who owned the property. It looked to be an elderly lady. I don't know her situation. So then you have to think about, now I'm possibly acquiring a property from someone who cannot, afford the property. This is an elderly individual. Do you really want to go through the process of evicting them? And so my thinking was, and it's difficult, right? Because on one hand, you've got finances. On the other ones, you've got, just being charitable and kind to people. Mm-hmm. And so my thinking was, if I did get the property, I was just going to reach out to the lady and see what we could work out, see where her circumstances were. If it was a couple of years before I could get to the property, to rehab it until she was in better condition to move somewhere or she no longer needed it, then I was willing to do that. I would not want to get the property in an auction and then go through the eviction process with my attorney to have someone's mom, put out of their home, no matter what the reason. So that was my thought process. So it was a little bit of a relief that I didn't get the property from that perspective, because that could be challenging. But I think with the value in the property, the amount that the property actually went for at the auction, there's a lot of room in there you can maneuver and just hold on to the property for a year or two without having to make a cash flow per se. It could be something you could certainly work out and do it in a very
and one thing that I want to mention, there's usually sometimes, not all the time, when the property goes for above the judgment value, that spread belongs to the homeowner. Okay, and they are required and allowed to take that money. Now, the how of they take the money, it depends on your location, on the state, county, and everything. But that money belongs to them. So let's say the max bid was 36. Her judgment was 36. And if people bid up to, let's say, 50, those 14 grand, is that difference will belong to her. And it's one of the things that you can do is just let her stay in the house while you work with your attorney or somebody else, help her pull the money out. And it depends. I know Florida is fairly quick. It will be a matter of finding out how the thing works in each one of your states or your location, your market. And that's another tool that you can get. Listen, we bought the house and let me help you with this. Or you can put like in your trading plan. It's like, you know what? I don't buy houses that are occupied. And that's another thing. And you don't want to get into that, karmic situation that you don't want to get anybody out. I'd rather just buy a property that's vacant and, deal with it. There's for everybody. There's stuff there there's plenty.
I definitely understand your thought, Kevin, because I've had that situation before, and not every investor feels that way. There's a lot of investors that they don't really care, but people like us that have good hearts, we come up with different ways. So what we've done in the past is cash for keys, reduce rental amount, keep them in the home, just to get some sort of cash flow out of it, whatever they can afford. Or like I said in the past, cash for keys has worked as well. And I have definitely passed up on properties just because of those reasons right there, even though they've been great deals. One really good example that I had was a wholesaler, and it was a fourplex. Two of the tenants, I could not bring myself to evict. They were like 70 and an 80-year-old lady, and they were paying like $400 or $500 in rent on a place that was worth like $1,000 in rent, and I'm just not buying it. Oh, why don't you want it? Because I don't know what to do with those two people. So I don't want it. I don't want it in my conscience. I could not figure out what to do. The purchase price was more than I can swing without making those two units perform. So I'd rather just walk away. So I completely understand that, that nervous feeling, but there is positive and there's negative to having an occupied property, right? Just like you said, if it's occupied, now you got to deal with that. There's an emotional side to it. There's there's all kinds of legal sides to it as well. But having a occupied property, most of the time, it means it's habitable. It means it's less rehab. When it's been vacant, especially for a long time, that could be bigger problems. So, I'll add to what Kevin said. So that was great, right? The driving at night is definitely a tool that Louis and I both deploy on a regular basis. Anytime we want to see, we buy, like I said, sight unseen properties all the time. And a simple drive-by, just by looking at the outside, the exterior of the home, can tell you a lot about what it's going to look like inside. Another thing that you could do if you're seeing that anytime you go by, you're not seeing power, is at least here in Florida, in most areas, I can call the power company. They won't give me any information, but I can say, hey, I'm getting ready to move into this property, and I just want to know, when I start my power account, is there an active power account right now? Simple question. At least most companies here in Florida, they will answer that question. there's an active power account, you pretty much know someone is living there. If there isn't, you also pretty much someone is not living there. I've only seen a handful of times, and Lewis, you went to with me to one in Hollywood where there was people living in a home
Squatters.
without power because they just flat out could not afford it. I don't know if you remember the one that it was the older Haitian lady, and she had been
Yes.
living there
Yes.
for like over a year with no power. She just could not afford it. And finally, it was fear. It was fear what had her trapped in a home that was completely paid for. She had a ton of equity and she could not afford power. She could barely afford her water bill. The city had redone the roof for her. I think there had been a fire or something, if I remember correctly. This was years ago.
The kitchen was all burned now.
It was the kitchen that was burned. The city had redone the roof, but she just couldn't afford anything else. And fear just had her trapped until someone in church who was a realtor helped her out, reached out to Lewis, myself, and a handful of investors. And but so that's like the outlier there, where it's like, oh, no power means that it's vacant. That's rarely happens. Can you imagine? That's got to be tough, right? But for the most part, that does tend to work, and it's a really good way of knowing if the property is vacant or not. When it's vacant, I have been known to kind of peek through the window to see conditions, right? You don't want to do that if it's occupied, especially in certain
another thing, if you're picking through windows, usually the meters now are all digital, the power meters. So you either, if they're analog, you're gonna see the little wheels turning, so that means you got power. Something has to be consuming. Even if everything is off, the fridge is consuming at least. So you will see it running, or the digital ones will tell you immediately off. So that's the same if there's no power in the house. Okay. Other things that you can get, just peek through the mailbox. Most of the times, if the property has been abandoned for a while, the postman will leave a note saying vacant. Okay, because they're tired of just dumping mail. After a while, they take everything, they take it back, and he knows it's the same person over and over again, that nobody's receiving that mail. That's another way to know if it's vacant.
Very important. Don't touch their mail. That's a federal offense.
Don't touch the mail. That's just you're allowed to look into the mailbox. Don't touch the mail. That's federal crime. What else? And then the old picture.
So if I think it's vacant, I will talk to the neighbors. That's a great way of getting information as to how long the property's been vacant, and that again is going to dictate, the amount of damage that I'm going to think it has if I can't see through a window.
Yeah.
The other
smart thing is when you try to pick to the windows, and if you see these pictures, the blinds are really tight and you cannot really see anything. If I cannot see a kitchen, I budget for a kitchen. If I cannot see a bedroom, I budget for a bedroom. If I cannot see an HVAC unit, I budget for an HVAC unit. Okay. Maybe the house is in perfect condition, but we know if it's been abandoned for a while, they will need repairs done first. And second, if we're going to flip a house, we usually want to bring them to fully updated conditions. So why not go as well and budget for the items anyway? Okay. Maybe you don't need to do one of the bathrooms when you walk in. Maybe the flooring is decent. And then, I'd rather have nice surprises than nasty ones. So in that sense, if they save myself $7,000 for flooring, I save myself $7,000 for flooring. I don't have to do it, but I already budget for it. So it helps you not to get trapped in a property when you have to dump a whole bunch of additional money that you were not expecting.
It goes back to that first thing that Lewis says. You can solve a lot of problems with money. And so if you budgeted extra, congratulations, you're making a bigger profit. Yeah. If you didn't, you're gonna not be happy. All right, Kevin. So you did the homework. You found out that the property was occupied. You even went as far as to look at the fact that you thought it was an elderly lady. Now I'll give you another tip there. When you look at public record, if the mailing address is a different address, you can usually basically assume that it is a tenant that is living in that property. And then now you might have to start thinking about a different set of difficulties and circumstances if that tenant has a lease in place with the owner or anything to that effect, or they're just a squatter. So just a little tidbit there when you're looking at public record, and the way that Kevin did that, I'm pretty sure I'll ask you, but what did you look at the property appraiser's website to look at who owned it?
Yes, I looked at our county's website, property. It's, the global mapping property system, basically, that most counties use these days. I've gotten very good at using that. So yeah, that's what I use to find out who lived there. And then on there, you can look at the various deeds and see, kind of the history of the property, who owned it, how it got to this individual. And yeah, I also use this app called Land Glide,
Okay.
which is very convenient. Yeah. And for me, in my county, it will map back to our county's, the revenue commissioner's website for properties. And it's very, very convenient to use if you're trying to navigate to properties, because a lot of times on the revenue commissioner's website, they don't give you the physical address of some of these properties if it's not owner occupied.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's a very useful app. I believe it's $7, $8, $9, $10 a month.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very useful.
That's pretty cool. We use sometimes we use
Yeah, we use PropStream. That's what we walked when we were doing when you had the call. Basically, run through the information to PropStream, which I got it open here.
it does show you pretty similar. I don't think it links us back to the county, but it gives you, some of that county information, which is very important, right? And that historical information is super, super valuable, as you obviously uncovered. Okay, so on the day of the auction, how were you treated when you were there? How did the rest of, one thing that I've heard from some investors is they shy away from going to these in-person auctions. They'll do the remote ones all day long because they're behind their computer screen, but they feel out of place going to the live one. How did that feel for you, being your first time?
Yeah, I felt comfortable. And again, if you feel uncomfortable going, just take a friend. It's fun, I mean, just grab a buddy and go. But yeah, it was great when I got there. Met one individual. They had an investment firm, not a firm, but they were real estate investing, probably an LLC.
Mhm.
And this is what they do. They go to auctions around this area. And this is what they do. They buy properties at auctions, they flip them, rent them. And so, I met an individual who is doing what I want to do. He was kind enough to give me his name and number. So we'll catch up one day and maybe I'll get some insight into how he's been successful from that area. But it was very interesting because we both talked about the elderly lady occupying the property, and he said the same thing. So it was nice to hear that the guy that I met got the bid, got the property, and they were basically going to look for a way to take care of the individual in the property as well. So no, it was not intimidating at all. I thought it was fun. I'll be back as soon as I have another opportunity.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. And that's usually what I try to tell people is like, look, yes, you might run into some rude investors. There's rude people everywhere, but for the most part, investors are not fighting. There's plenty of deals to be made. They're willing to share. And I've ran into investors at the properties, at auctions, everywhere. And then next, we become friends. We're sharing information. That's how I met Louis.
Yeah.
He had an office in the same office building as me. I was like, what do you do? Oh, you do? Let's grab a coffee. Next thing you know, we're buddies,
Yeah, it was
fast
like
forward,
that.
like what, 5-7 years later, we're doing deals together, So
It's definitely a
That's,
good place to network.
it is absolutely a great place to network. So going back to what Kevin said at the beginning of this, if you're interested in real estate and, go check out one of these auctions, don't even go ready to bid. Kevin, like I said, he's the man and, just a genius in himself. So he showed up with a pocket full of cash, ready to go,
This house is
I'm
gonna
glad
be
he didn't
mine.
I'm glad he didn't bring a suitcase, right? He brought actual cashier's checks. Suitcase with the handcuff, just in case. But don't even go ready to bid. Just go network, go meet these people, go see what kind of and Louis has done.
That's what I
this when he
did.
was in Georgia.
That's what I did for
That's what he
2 or 3
started doing.
months.
He had never been to an auction in Georgia, right, Louis? He was like, oh, let's go check it out.
Same thing. And I'll be checking out here in Georgia. They're called Super Tuesdays. It's always the first Tuesday of each month in every county at the same time. They all start at 10. So I need to find a way to clone me so I can be do 2-3 counties at the same time. But for the most part, same situation. I went in, the lady from auction.com, the major auctioneer was there. She was super nice with a bright yellow shirt. And she was super nice. I asked a whole bunch of questions. She pointed me in the right direction. She told me what I needed to bring, etc. And they just ask everybody else, hey, what are you looking for? What are you waiting for? Which house are you looking at? I'm just new here. I just moved. And so people will just put a smile and people will really willing to help you. And remember another thing, people like to talk. They like to brag on what they've done. They like to brag on what they do. So yeah, I've done a million of this and perfect. Just listen. And you can take tidbits here and there, and then you'll be prepared at some point. And do the homework. Same thing that I did. Figure out which ones they sold, figure out, how much they sold, and then go the whole thing backwards. Why? Why are they willing to do this? And just figure your numbers. That's what it is. That's what I did in Florida 12 years ago. That's what I'm doing in Georgia right now. And that's what we're going to do in Alabama.
It's almost like back trading, right?
It's just exactly like back trading. So that's why when I got here, it's like, it makes too much sense because it's the same situation. You just apply it to a different field. You just make sure that you know what you're doing, or pretty much figure out what you think you're doing. You got your parameters, and you just pull the trigger. It's exactly the same.
All right, Kevin. So let's get to the question of the hour. I'm sure everybody in the room wants to know. So we determined that you give it about $120 valuation. Am I correct? This was your ARV?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
120, 125 maybe.
Okay. How much
Okay.
did it go for? You said it started at 36. And how much did it go for?
The winning bid was 45K.
Ooh.
45K bid. Wow. Okay. And what was your estimated rehab budget that you and Lewis came up with?
I had estimated that I should stay under 45 to 50K through mine and Lewis's numbers. And so when it got up to that point, I started getting a little nervous. And so I kind of let it go, which, okay, it's my first auction, but
It's okay.
there's good and bad. On one hand, I didn't have to worry about making that funny signature that Lewis talked about because I'm so nervous because I was already starting to get there. Right. But on the other hand, I was looking for another property because we just wrapped up a rehab on a rental that we were doing. So I'm looking for the next property to go to. So, but yeah, I think it would have been a good purchase at that winning bid.
Mhm.
So like you guys said, back trading, I'm going to follow to see what happens to the property and then kind of work the numbers backwards to see what type of investment it could have been.
Perfect.
That's
exactly
perfect.
right.
And it's a good thing that you stayed in communication with the guy who actually bought it. So you could actually, communicate with that person as to how it went. So that to me sounds like a pretty home run deal, man. That's a way below 50% value. So
Yeah. Not only that, Kevin is ready, and Kevin sent me an address of a new one that he wants to see.
ooh, let's do it. Let me figure out how to delete that. Hold on.
Jump into this.
There we go. So now, Kevin, by the way, congrats, man. For how many times did you bid? Wait, hold on. How many times did you bid? This is exciting, man. Sound like my wife now. Now I want details. What were you wearing? What kind of shoes?
So I think I placed 4 or 5 bids, and it became clear to me that the guy who ended up winning the bid, he was there to get the property.
Okay.
It became really clear that he was there to get the property. And at one point we were bidding and, it had been minor increases, 100, 500, just kind of friendly back and forth. And then he jumped up, 3 or 4,000. And I'm like, okay, well, he's serious. So I bid again.
Shut up.
Yeah. I bid again. And then he did the same thing. And I'm like, okay, well, he clearly wants the property and he's going to bid whatever it takes.
He did the puffer fish. That's what I like to call it, right? He's like, all right,
yes,
we're going up $100 at a time. It's like, here's $3,000. You go up another $200. Like, here's another $3,000. Like,
what are you gonna do now? All right. And you fold, and that's okay. It's
We've done that
He
strategy.
called your
plenty
number.
of
He called your
times, man. So it's a great strategy. Now you can turn around and use that next time you go.
Exactly.
When you're like, severely below your number, because it usually you have to do it at least twice. It's most of the time someone comes in and drops one other bid, on your first large bid. So that's great, man. That's awesome. I'm sure you were, getting, at least for me, I get progressively more nervous as I approach my number. Even still to this day, the jitters are nowhere near the same as the beginning, but I still, especially when I buy a property, I'm like, all right, gotta get in the car, gotta send somebody to go see it if I'm not going myself.
What did I get
This is
myself
all
into?
weird.
What did I get myself into?
Yeah, it's not much different when you get filled on a trade and you're like, you got 3 hours on the table. Like, woo.
Yeah, it's something else I didn't realize, but I'm glad I had the app up on my phone with auction.com, is there are virtual bidders as well. So if you do go to these auctions, it's a really good idea to have your phone open, and you can see what the live bidders are bidding, where you're there for that. But for those who aren't there, because it's virtual, you can also see what they bid. So just another tip, keep your phone up so you can see what the virtual bidders are doing.
But one thing though, you're gonna see the auctions that are coming through auction.com. If the way it works, it's that it's not a centralized situation. So different lenders, it's easier for them to use auction.com. So, but there's some lenders that will use other attorney that is not affiliated to these guys. So the same way you have the auctioneer with the bright shirt, with the logo and everything. I've seen the cases here in Georgia where the auctioneer goes and you still have properties coming from other attorneys with another auctioneer that they're not online. So, for example, I went to, it's called Bartow County. It's about 45 minutes west of me, west of Atlanta, where the people from auction.com, they were in one county because I met them there and then I drove first. There were 4 people waiting. 2 other auctioneers came in. Each one of them bought 2 properties. And I was just looking. So those are the ones where nobody can really bid online. So those are the ones that they were the 8 people that were there, and that was it. Okay, so it limits a lot of the competition of the people bidding the stuff, or bringing the price up remotely. So just keep that in mind. If there's auction, it's in place. You can do the bid on your phone. That's fine. But being on site will give you better deals, because the ones that are not advertised, or the ones where people cannot come in easily, are the ones that are going to sell cheap. Okay, so keep
Yes,
in
sir.
mind.
So, real quick, I do want to answer Kevin's question before we dig into this property. We have about 14 minutes left of the show. Kevin asked, what are the benefits of buying real estate in an LLC? So again, not an attorney, not a CPA, but the way it's always been explained to me, and I actually got a pretty hard rule. I only buy properties in my name if I'm going to live there. That's just a hard set rule that I've created from advice from my attorneys. And the reason being is, number one, liability. So if something happens on a property you own under your name, and it's a lawsuit that you are involved in, it is coming to your personal name. So all your assets are at risk at that point. If it's in an LLC, only the assets that are within that LLC are at risk. Now, there's obviously ways of piercing the corporate veil. It's like the attorney lingo for it, that they can get through that LLC and get to you. But for the most part, you are way safer by putting it in an LLC. And I even have a rule as to how many properties or how much valuation I will put into each particular LLC. My attorney will not let me go above 4 or 5 properties, or more or less about $1 million. So if it's more expensive, $500,000 property, she'll cap me out at 2. And that is just a function of making sure that I'm properly insured. It's very easy to get a $1 million or $2 million liability policy on an LLC. It's very inexpensive. And if there's ways of getting umbrella policies and covering yourself and all of that, but I tend to do that above and beyond my liability policy on that property. So, typically I'm going to have a insurance for that property, which includes, $100,000 or $300,000 of liability coverage. Then I'm going to throw a liability policy above that for about $1 million or $2 million. And then, I'll have my personal umbrella if above and beyond that. That's just ways of protecting yourself on the liability side. And on the taxes side, Well, as we all know, being a business owner, having LLCs, there's a lot of benefits that come from that. All your expenses are considered business expenses under that LLC. It's easy for you to categorize everything that was for that property, be it property management, construction, even your gas driving yourself to that auction is expensable in the right circumstances, right? Again, I'm not a CPA, but those are some of the benefits that I've seen and that I've used the LLCs for. Does that answer your question? Is that helpful?
Yes, that was great. I was definitely interested in hearing about from a asset protection liability perspective, as well as from a tax advantage as well. So that's something I'll be looking at in the very near future to get our rental properties under an LLC. And I think it'll be obviously safer for us and better from a tax purpose.
It absolutely will. Now, there's a certain point at which, you know, certain amount of time and income is required for you to be considered a real estate professional if you have W-2 income from elsewhere. But once you cross that bridge to becoming a real estate professional, the sky's the limit with the tax advantages, man. It just skyrockets from there. Until you reach that point, there's some limited tax benefits, but yeah, it's really amazing, man.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. This is the one where you're interested to look now. Caroma Drive, Northeast in Coleman, Alabama. The auction, it's on the, let me move this screen over here, May 4th. So we have what, 2-3 weeks to
Perfect.
have a good look at it. Auction starts at 11 a.m. and it's in the courthouse, same situation. So in the back side of the building, so what, the people go into the parking lot and stay there, or how does it work?
So it's funny, there's a little newspaper like stand behind the courthouse. It really is in the walkway where people are going into the courthouse, and that's where the auction occurs.
Nice. So not even a shade, because I remember here in Georgia, people bring their camping chairs and they got Uber Eats delivered to the thing because you have to sit there waiting for the auctioneer. So it was fun in that sense.
How many properties were on the auction block when you went last time, Kevin?
So yeah, that was also surprising to me as well. There were 3 properties on the list for that day, but only one of them ended up being cleared for auction. The other 2 were postponed.
Okay.
Yep. Happens all the time, man. There's little tiny things that could make it be postponed, canceled. People could file bankruptcies. There could be a mistake in the foreclosure process. Literally any motion that an attorney files from either side just gets extended. And so that's one reason why we sometimes do heavy research behind our computer, especially when we're going to like here in Florida, where it's like, you know, big numbers, 20, 30 of these. I used to drive them at the beginning, right? And it was just like a waste of gas. And because then, you know, I drive 15 of them and one of them is on the auction or 2 of them are on the auction. And of course, the other 30 that I didn't look at actually did go up. So it's kind of one of those things. What's nice when you're in a smaller area such as you is there's going to be less inventory, but there's also going to be way less competition, and it's easier to drive 2 or 3 properties, you know, a month out. And so what do we know about this property? Lou, you want to put it up on the drive there, Google Maps, and then let the little guy walk it and see what it looks like, because we don't have any pictures. Looks like a nice residential neighborhood.
Nice residential, clean neighborhood.
So this neighborhood,
2014.
this neighborhood has been around for years, since I was a kid. It's built upon a drinking reservoir for the city of Coleman. So it's a nice area. It's a well-established, well-known neighborhood. The name of the neighborhood is Larkwood. If you tell someone you live in Larkwood, then you know it's a nice place to have a home. So it's the best property that I've seen on auction.com thus far.
Okay.
It definitely does look pretty nice. It looks like you got some pretty good schools. You got 8s and 7s for schools. That's pretty good. So I that kind of confirms what you just said in terms of the neighborhood, right?
Yeah, it's a really good school system. We have some of the best schools in our city system in the state.
All right, so they bought it in 2015. You see, it was listed in January, couple price changes removed, boom, they closed in 2015. We're in 2023. So now the thing will be to find out, what's going on with that one. Ideally, what we recommend is that you find a way to do a title search. Okay, because as Kevin said, we're getting very good at looking stuff through the property appraiser and to the records. However, there's a thing in Florida where you win the auction, they deduct certain amount of money from your account, and you have to the next day to pay. So usually what I do is I'm 95% sure of everything, meaning my numbers, meaning the property condition, and meaning the legal part of it. And then I use those 24 hours to make sure that everything is correct. If nothing is correct, then I'm willing to lose that deposit because I don't want to buy a property where the numbers are not going to make sense or something's going to happen. All right. In Georgia, on the other side, you need to buy, once you win, you need to pay immediately. Okay. So you need to have the research done completely. And I'm actually right now looking for a company that will do title searches for me on the fly. Now, Kevin, you said that over there you needed to pay 5,000. And when was the rest of the money due?
So it's 5K deposit for the winning bidder, and then the rest by wire within, and I can't remember if it's 24 or 48 hours, but you have 1 to 2 days to get the remaining amount through wire.
That's
Which is easier. So at that moment, then you verify your information, So usually what I do is once I win one of those sight unseen's in the computer, then I literally drop everything. I send an email to my legal guy, the one that runs the title searches, and I shut down the computer and go see it. Because again, what we know now, what we see now, might not be exactly what we get when we go to the property. I don't know where these pictures were taken of. Okay, so we might have broken windows, we might have different issues. So in order to verify, I do not send the final payment until I get a title search back and I got eyes on the property. Eyes, pictures, video on the property to verify the condition and to verify that my numbers make sense.
And to verify that there's an actual property there, right? Not just dirt.
Yeah, I got that t-shirt.
But that is a very important differentiation, right? And depending where you're at, like Lewis says, here in Florida, we only play in counties where we have time. There's some counties in Florida that they want your full wire within 4 hours. Now, we're bidding remotely. We have local teams and things like that, but my team's not going to get there within an hour or two most of the time. So we won't touch anything that doesn't give us at least 24 hours to send the remainder of that money. And then that deposit for here in Florida is 5%. That 5% simply becomes our stop loss, just like with trading, right? So we know that if we are 95% sure about the deal, we're willing to go ahead and and throw that 5% out there and take that gamble, take that risk, so to speak. If something comes back weird, we're just going to walk away from that 5% and not send the money the next day. In the case of the counties where Lewis is out right now, you got to pay immediately. So before Lewis goes to that auction, he's going to be 100% certain he's willing to write a check right then and there.
Yep, exactly. So that's what pretty much not stopped me, but delayed me buying properties over here. But I'll get there. Probably in the next couple of months.
Yeah, you got to do a little bit more homework, and
yeah, so I got more homework, and I have everything pretty much sorted out. What I really need is somebody to do a title search quick here, because I've been offered 7 days or 7 business days. That's not quick enough. I need somebody when I like something. Hey, I like it. Give me 2-3 days. Give me the response, because sometimes they publish up to the day before they come into the auction.
You might want to look into that software that we interviewed last year, dude. First Residential. Remember, I mean, it's a little bit pricey, but they have access to all the stuff, to all the title records. It's kind of like on the fly.
Yeah,
it's never gonna be, the security of having an attorney review it for you, but you're pretty much
pretty much safe. So Kevin, let's see. So we like this house, we like this neighborhood. What have you found out about the property? You know the history, you know what's going on here.
I don't have a lot of background on the property. I've seen the deed, the warranty deed. from the individuals who currently own it. I believe that was in 2015.
Correct.
I did drive by a couple of days ago. Property looks great. It looks just like it does in that picture. Neighborhood's still great. So I've got some research to do as far as titles. The other concern that I have, or the really only concern that I have at this point, is there's a pool in the backyard. So that brings in some uncertainty as far as potential costs associated with the rehab. So that's an unknown to me. You guys probably have dealt with that a lot more, but that was something that just immediately I saw as a potential risk.
Yeah. So what I would do in that situation is try to find permit history for when the last time the pool was remodeled. If you can't find anything recent, I'm gonna budget to remodel the pool.
Yeah. And for the most part, is the property occupied that you know of?
It is occupied.
It is occupied. So do you have a drone? Do you know anybody with a
Oh
drone?
man, come on now. Don't get Kevin in trouble.
What I want to know there, if the pool is green, if the pool is full, kind of the condition. If the pool is green and completely messed up, you will have to drain it, do the new diamond bright, do the whole thing. That's gonna be well, $5-6 grand. If the pool is in decent shape, you might get away with just a clean. Okay. If the pool is empty or has some kind of major crack, then you got issues where it might be better just to condemn the pool and just fill it up. That's what I want to see. Again, there's nothing illegal flying over somebody's property as long as you don't step on it. So that might be the thing that I would do. Try to find out if you can, kids, friends, somebody can give you kind of birdshot eye. The other thing that I know is, this is 2023. If you look to the property appraiser, they have satellite pictures every year. So at least usually in Florida, those pictures get updated every January. I'm not sure in your property appraiser. So you can get those.
Okay.
And it will give you fairly recent picture of what's going on with the house. And not only is the satellite, it gives you the bird eye.
So this picture's from 2023. Your pool looks
Supposedly.
better than this one here.
Supposedly.
So that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, you see, I'm not afraid of something like this.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I would just budget for it. That's it.
Just
Look at this
budget.
guy. I'd be more afraid of that. Looks like an empty pool, right? If I'm seeing that correctly.
That's like an empty pool. Yes, sir.
That might be a little bit more dangerous, Kevin. A dirty, ugly pool.
Dirty, empty pool, then you have issues. Because now you have to, is it empty because the bank came and emptied up, the people came and emptied up, or is there a crack that is going to be a major situation to fix? Okay, so if it's a major situation to fix, I'll fill it up. But then again, in order to fill it up, you need to do it in a certain way. Most likely you need to pull a permit to do it.
Yeah.
So again, budget for that. I will try to park over on this side, and this looks like a nice park, and run a drone and try to have a look.
I would just
That's
budget
just me.
for a
Okay,
remodel.
yeah,
That's
I don't
me.
know. And if you get a drone, the drone probably is gonna be a business expense as well.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Lewis, can I call you for bail?
Just
Notice
saying.
he didn't say yes or no. All right, team. Any final questions before we hand it over to Yates? If anybody has any questions in the chat, throw them in there. If not, give me a couple fives if you thought today was helpful. Kevin, any final questions?
No questions for me, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to be on. It's been great working with you, and I look forward to continuing to do that. So hope everyone has a great weekend.
For
Thank
sure.
you so
Thank
much
you,
for
my
coming
friend.
on, Kevin. We really appreciate it. I'm excited. I've seen the first call we had with you to now. You're like leaps and bounds ahead of schedule, man. You're like, if you've been a pro for like the last 10 years already. So I can't wait to see what kind of amazing real estate portfolio you put together. And I love that you are building that generational wealth, which I'm big on. And yes, full-blown real estate badass, man.
Well, thanks for the kind words, guys. I hope one day that I live up to your introductions.
You will. And let's sit down and run the numbers on this one. This one looks nice.
Sounds great, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, man. Have a good one, buddy. All right, Lou, close her up.
All right, guys. So if you don't have any questions, we are here. Let me look at my mouse here. We have any questions? We have any other comments? If not, Deepak is saying thanks a lot. I will hit you up. Guys, it's not as hard. Trust me, it's not rocket science. If I can do it, Hector can do it, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of figuring out the house. And again, rocket science and open heart surgery is way, 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 way more complicated than this. Okay, this is like Jeremy says, second grade math. It's just simple as that.
First grade, bro.
First grade math and a little bit of babysitting. And we'll talk about that when we talk about contractors. Any questions, any comments, guys? Please, we're here, real estate at reallifetraining.com. For coaching information, for additional information, we're at reallifetraining.com/RE. Here we are. Here's the pretty mug. Here's the ugly mug. Okay, you want to work with him? Here's Hector. Here's what he's done. That's me, what I've done. You're going to work with us. We do mentorships, we do calls, we do whatever you guys need on top of what we do here for you guys on the show. Brian is doing the BRRRR thing: buy, renovate, rent, refi, and repeat. He's coming soon. He is an expert into doing that. Okay, we got mentoring here. You want one call, you want 3 calls, you want a full-blown thing. We're here. Any other, if you come to reallifetraining.com/RE, every other session that we've done, that we do live here with you guys, it's going in YouTube. So if you missed something, if you want to know about something, just check them out. You click on one of those, it will give you the whole playlist. If you want to start it, here's your books. Go through one, pick 2 of them, start reading, start getting we want to help you build generational wealth. We want you to be wealthy. We want your family to be wealthy. We want to help you change your family tree. So please just join us here whenever you get a chance. Again, real estate at reallifetraining.com. If you're in YouTube, like we always say, like and subscribe. It helps us with the numbers and with the prints and the whole thing. And with that, say bye. Have a great rest of your Friday or whatever day that you're looking at us online.
Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Remember, real estate is my favorite way of creating generational wealth. Love you all.